You got the LOI, you celebrated, you told your partners, and then nothing. No calls returned, emails going unanswered. The lender just disappeared. This happens more than anyone in this industry wants to admit. And in almost every case, the borrower has no idea what actually went wrong. This video covers exactly what happened, because the pattern is consistent, it's predictable, and it's almost always avoidable. Equus Capital Finance is a middle-market capital advisory firm, not a lender, not a deposit taker, an intermediary, sitting between borrowers and the capital markets, with a view into every way a deal can die before it ever gets funded. This series, Deal Autopsy, is built around one question: what actually killed this deal? Not the version the borrower tells their partners, the real version. Today's case is one of the most common failure patterns in middle market finance. The lender issued an LOI. The borrower thought they had a deal, and then the lender went silent. Here's what was really happening. Most borrowers treat an LOI like a commitment. Lenders treat it like a conditional expression of interest. An LOI, a letter of intent, is not a commitment. It is not approval. It is not even close to a guarantee of funding. What it is a lender saying, based on what you've told me so far, here are the terms I'd be willing to consider, subject to everything I'm about to find out about you. The three things an LOI actually signals. The deal passed a basic screen: size, asset class, geography. The lender wants to look deeper. It's not a yes, it's a not yet a no. And the terms are indicative. They will change once the real numbers come in. When a borrower gets an LOI and stops doing the work to close the gap between where they are and what the lender actually needs, that's when the ghosting starts. A lender who sees inconsistency doesn't call to ask you to fix it. They move on. Their pipeline is full of deals that don't have that problem. Ghosting is just their version of a decline letter. What this looks like in practice: a pro forma that doesn't tie to the rent roll, a sponsor bio that mentions experience but can't be verified, an appraisal that's 18 months old in a market that's moved. Any one of these can stall a deal. Two of them and you're done. Lenders have internal mandates that shift constantly. Concentration limits by asset class, geography, loan size. A bridge lender who issued an LOI in January may have filled their construction allocation by March. They're not going to call to explain that. They're just going to stop responding. This is one of the clearest arguments for working with an intermediary who has active lender relationships. Someone who knows when a lender's mandate has shifted before 90 days are wasted chasing a dead deal. Lenders are not just evaluating the deal, they're evaluating the borrower. How document requests are handled, how quickly information is provided, whether responses are evasive or transparent when something difficult comes up. All of it is being scored silently. Deals have died because a borrower took 3 weeks to respond to a straightforward due diligence request. The lender's interpretation wasn't "they're busy." It was "they don't have what they said they had." When a lender gets into the capital stack and finds a structural problem, they don't renegotiate. They go quiet. Renegotiating means re-underwriting, recommitting credit committee time, potentially repricing the deal. It's easier to let it die and move to the next file. This is why the capital stack needs to be clean and fully disclosed before approaching a lender, not after the LOI. Some borrowers receive an LOI and immediately use it to leverage competing terms from other lenders. That is a normal and sometimes appropriate strategy. But execution matters enormously. In middle market financing, The lending community is smaller than borrowers assume. Lenders talk. If a borrower is known for using LOIs as negotiating chips rather than as the beginning of a partnership, that reputation follows them. What's the common thread? In every single one of these cases, the lender had more information than the borrower realized, and the borrower had less control than they assumed. Borrowers tend to think of the LOI as the finish line of the origination process. Lenders think of it as the starting gun for due diligence. That misalignment, that gap in how each party understands where they are in the process, is the root cause of almost every ghost. Send one final professional note, following up to confirm whether you'd like to proceed, or if I should assume you've moved on. That's it. Then stop. Chasing a lender who has gone quiet damages positioning for any future approach. Before taking this deal to the next lender, understand why the last one walked. That means an honest audit of the due diligence package, the capital stack, the sponsor documentation, and behavior during the process. If the cause isn't identified, it will repeat. Get a real assessment of whether this deal, as currently structured, is lendable in today's market, not from a broker who tells you what you want to hear in exchange for a success fee mandate. That's exactly what the Project Navigator engagement at Equus Capital Finance is built for. The lender didn't ghost because they're unprofessional. They ghosted because something in the deal told them the risk wasn't worth the conversation. The job is to find out what that thing was, not to find a more lenient lender, not to lower the ask, but to fix the actual problem. That's what this series is about. Real deal failures, real causes, no textbook answers. If this video was useful, the next one in this series covers something just as common: the wrong lender matched to the right deal, and why that mismatch is just as lethal as a bad deal. Subscribe so you don't miss it.